You weren't born tame. You were born with fire in your chest and teeth in your spirit. The world didn't take that from you. It trained it out of you, rewarded your silence, praised your obedience, punished your rawness until you called it self-control. But let's be honest, the real you isn't gone, just caged. And if you don't let that version out soon, you'll spend the rest of your life behaving instead of living. It didn't happen all at once. It happened in pieces. Every time you kept your mouth shut to avoid making someone uncomfortable. Every time you were told to be realistic. Every time your ambition made someone insecure, and instead of standing taller, you shrank. That's how it starts. Not with chains, with applause. They call it maturity. They call it discipline. But deep down, you know the difference between growth and erasure. You know when something is building you, and when it's slowly breaking you down. And now here you are, tamer than you've ever been. You nod along. You say the right things. You walk into rooms careful not to take up too much space. You've traded your instinct for etiquette, your truth for tone. You dress the part, play the role, say what's expected, and people love it. They love the version of you that stays within their lines. But you're starving. Not for food, not for praise, for something wild, something real, something that doesn't ask you to shrink in exchange for safety. The most dangerous part of all of this is that you've gotten good at pretending it's fine. You've told yourself that calm is the goal, that peace is found in keeping the volume down. But that's not peace. That's suppression. And the reason it haunts you when the room goes quiet, the reason you can't shake that feeling like something's missing, is because you are the real you, the untamed one, the one that wasn't afraid to be loud, to be wrong, to want more, to take up space. That version didn't die. You just locked it in a room you stopped visiting. And the world will keep rewarding your disappearance. As long as you stay convenient, quiet, easy to manage, you'll fit in just fine. But fitting in isn't the goal. It never was. You weren't born to be manageable. You weren't born to be nice. You were born to disrupt, to wake people up, to shake the ground a little when you walk into the room. So if you feel something rising, a restlessness, a rage, a hunger, don't bury it again. That's not a breakdown. That's a breakthrough. That's the sound of the cage cracking. And the truth is, it was never locked. You've just been trained to forget how to leave. But now you remember. You don't become free by adding more. You become free by unlearning what made you forget you already were. And the truth is, you've spent more of your life being trained than being alive. Trained to sit still. Trained to please. Trained to care more about how you're perceived than how you feel. You've been taught to build your life like a resume. Respectable, digestible, safe. And for a while it worked. People approved. They clapped. You got praise for being reliable, for being calm, for being easy. But inside, something was decaying. Because every time you filtered yourself, you chipped away at something real. Unlearning begins the moment you stop pretending that suppression is strength, that biting your tongue makes you wise, that lowering your voice means you've evolved. No. Sometimes, what you're calling maturity is really just fear in disguise. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being rejected. Fear of being too much. But you have to ask yourself, who told you that the full version of you was too loud, too bold, too intense? And why did you believe them? What if they weren't wise, just uncomfortable? What if they never knew how to carry their own fire, so they told you to dim yours? And you did. Not because they were right, but because you didn't want to lose love. You didn't want to be alone. You didn't want to stand out too soon before you were ready. So you learned how to shrink. and you wore that shrinking like armor. But now that armor's rusted. It doesn't fit. It chokes. You've outgrown the version of you that plays small just to keep others big. And unlearning is going to feel like loss. You're going to mourn the people who only loved your smaller self. You're going to disappoint the ones who liked you tame. That's the cost of remembering who you are. But the alternative is far worse. To live the rest of your life knowing you traded your edge for approval, your voice for comfort, your fire for fitting in. Unlearning is messy. It's going to feel like rebellion, like failure, like walking out of a room where everyone expects you to stay. But on the other side of that door is breath, space, weightlessness, and most of all, honesty. You stop doing things because they look right and start doing them because they feel true. You stop checking if everyone's okay with your truth. You start checking if you're okay with your silence. This part of the journey isn't about changing the world. It's about changing your relationship to yourself. Because once you stop trying to be tame, once you stop apologizing for the fire in your blood, you don't have to raise your voice to be heard. Your presence will do it for you. The unlearning is painful, but it's sacred, and it's necessary, because you were never meant to be safe. You were meant to be free. The return doesn't feel like a revolution. It feels like recognition, not loud, not dramatic, just quiet certainty. You start showing up differently, not because you've become someone new, but because you stopped running from who you've always been. You stop lowering your volume in rooms that never deserved your voice. You stop asking if it's okay to want more. You stop explaining your ambition like it's a flaw. There's no anger in it, just clarity. The kind that comes when you finally understand. You don't need to become more palatable to be worthy of space. This version of you doesn't need permission anymore. You've buried that habit. You've looked around and realized most of what was limiting you was internal. Inherited fear, trained guilt, false humility. You've seen what happens when you shrink. You've felt the cost of it, the regret, the erosion, the quiet desperation of living a life that impresses everyone but fulfills no one. And now you know. You weren't asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong people. You weren't too bold. You were in the wrong rooms. So now you move, clean, focused, whole. You don't yell to be heard. You don't over-explain. You don't soften what's true just to make it easier to swallow. You walk into the day with your spine straight and your soul awake. There is no longer a war between who you are and who you've been pretending to be. That fight is over. You chose yourself. Finally. And sure, not everyone will understand. Some people liked the version of you that was quiet, agreeable, less threatening. They'll say you've changed. That's fine. They were never supposed to meet the real you, the free you. The one who knows that playing small serves no one. The one who doesn't fold in the face of discomfort, but leans into it with intention. The one who doesn't live to be tolerated, but walks in knowing they're here to transform. Because that's what you are now. Untamed. Not reckless, not chaotic, just unapologetically alive. You've come back to yourself not as a memory, but as a force, a presence, a reminder that we weren't born to hide. We weren't made to just exist. We were made to roar, to disrupt, to challenge, to create something that echoes long after we're gone. The world doesn't need more polite souls playing small. It needs the wild ones, the brave ones, the ones who have the audacity to be fully themselves in a world that keeps asking for less. And that's who you are now. Not because you found something new, but because you finally stopped denying what's always been there. You were never broken, just buried. And now that you've returned, nothing can tame you again.